Berlin, November 1938, 74 Tirpitzufer, the nerve center of Nazi military intelligence. On this desk, invasion plans for Czechoslovakia, SS memos, and forged documents being passed to the British. All controlled by Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, Hitler's own spy chief, who for nearly a decade secretly sabotaged the regime from inside its most sensitive office. What protected him that long is the real question. A ledger sits open on the desk at 74 Tirpitzufer. Its pages record names, numbers, and signatures in a looping, measured hand. The date in the margin reads November 1938. Stacked beside it are coded logs, travel permits, and a slim file stamped with the Abwehr seal. Each entry is precise: an agent's code, a destination, a payment authorized by Canaris. Canaris' signature, looping beneath the Abwehr insignia, authorized both sabotage orders and safe conduct passes, sometimes for the same operation. In the corner, a sheaf of forged passports, their covers blank except for faint imprints. These documents tracked not only the movement of men and funds, but the quiet architecture of power within Nazi Germany's military intelligence. The desk, heavy and scarred, bore the weight of secrets, plans for Czechoslovakia, lists of foreign contacts, and instructions for the creation of counterfeit identities. A memorandum dated 23 September 1938 catalogs the desk inventory, forged papers, cryptographic keys, and the means to move operatives across borders without leaving a trace. Every item is logged, every transaction justified, as if bureaucracy itself could shield the architect from suspicion. The handwriting is steady, betraying nothing. Here at the center of the Third Reich's intelligence machine, evidence accumulates, proof that beneath the surface order, something else is at work. The paper trail left by Canaris is not just a record of state security, it is a map of ambiguity, complicity, and resistance, written in ink that still refuses to fade. By 1935, the Abwehr was more than a Berlin headquarters. Under Canaris, it became a continent-spanning web. Its reach measured in shipping manifests and coded cables, not just in names on a page. The agency's structure was divided into 3 departments: Amt 1 for counter-espionage, Amt 2 for sabotage and special operations, and Amt 3 for administration and logistics. Each department fed into a network of 6 critical capitals: Madrid, Lisbon, Bern, Ankara, Oslo, and Budapest. These cities were not chosen at random. Madrid and Lisbon, for example, served as entry points for arms and radio equipment during the Spanish Civil War. Abwehr shipping records from October 1936 list 5 tons of radio gear dispatched from Berlin to Franco's nationalists, routed through supposedly neutral ports. At the same time, the same supply lines quietly moved forged papers and escapees in the other direction, using the chaos of war as cover. The logistics chain ran on dual-use principles. Safe houses in Bern and Ankara, registered under innocuous addresses, could shelter agents, political refugees, or, as later payroll ledgers would reveal, Jews listed as V-Man operatives. Amt 2's forgery unit produced counterfeit passports and identity cards, some destined for sabotage missions, others for those fleeing the regime. Internal ledgers from Amt 3 tracked stipends and coded disbursements, blurring the line between official intelligence work and covert resistance. The Abwehr's bureaucratic machinery, from typewritten memos to false travel documents, enabled both Nazi operations and their quiet subversion. Canaris' strategy relied on the scale and complexity of this apparatus. The more sprawling and indispensable the network appeared, the easier it became to hide acts of sabotage and protection in plain sight, buffered by the very bureaucracy meant to guarantee loyalty. A warning crossed borders in September 1938, carried not by diplomats, but by a chain of intermediaries tied to the Abwehr. British Foreign Office file FO 37431 records a message: German forces were preparing to strike Czechoslovakia. The name Hans Oster appears, but the network behind him traced back to Canaris' desk. The British ambassador, Sir Neville Henderson, received the tip on the 15th. The Munich crisis played out in public, but in the shadows, a German intelligence chief had quietly tipped the scales, risking everything to slow Hitler's advance. A year later, on November 9, 1939, the Venlo incident unfolded on the Dutch border. MI5 file D-208 and Abwehr field reports confirmed the operation. 2 British agents lured to a cafe, captured by German intelligence. Major Fritz von der Osten's orders bore Canaris's approval. The official story credited the SD, but the Abwehr's fingerprints were everywhere. The operation exposed British channels, but it also shielded certain resistance lines from further Gestapo investigation. The motives remain tangled, a blend of provocation, misdirection, and internal sabotage. In May 1940, as Sea Lion loomed, Ultra Intercept B-24-102 noted a curious leak. British codebreakers intercepted hints from a naval intelligence chief, Admiral Canaris, suggesting invasion plans were in flux. Post-war interrogation of Georg Hansen confirmed the leak had reached the Dutch resistance. No written order survives, but the circumstantial evidence is strong. The invasion was postponed, and the Allies gained precious time. The Abwehr's ledgers tell another story. Payroll entries from Berlin to Budapest list payments to V-Man operatives, some of them Jews. These names, buried in administrative code, received stipends and safe conducts, while others disappeared into the camps. The so-called V-Men scandal, documented in Amt 3 ledger books, reveals a bureaucracy that enabled both repression and protection. Each event, check warning, Venlo, Sea Lion, V-Men, should have been enough to doom Canaris. Yet the files kept growing, the desk remained occupied, and the paradox deepened, sabotage and complicity inked in the same hand. Rivalries at the heart of the Nazi state shaped the fate of Wilhelm Canaris. The Abwehr's existence depended on a delicate balance of power, not just on the skill of its chief. Reinhard Heydrich, head of the SS Security Service, and Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer SS, each sought control over all intelligence. In 1942, Heydrich pressed for the Abwehr's subordination, arguing in internal SS memoranda, now preserved as BAT 44-16506, that the agency could not be trusted. Yet the same memos show a paradox. Heydrich, wary of Himmler's growing reach, sometimes shielded the Abwehr as a counterweight, using bureaucratic maneuvering to keep Canaris in place. Himmler's attempts to absorb the Abwehr were met with resistance not only from Heydrich but also from the Wehrmacht High Command, which valued the Abwehr's foreign contacts and naval ties. This internal chess game bought Canaris time. Payroll ledgers from 1942 list Hans Oster and Hans von Donanyi under innocuous codes, V-23 and V-42, receiving stipends for special assignments. These officers, both close to Canaris, ran parallel operations. Oster coordinated clandestine contacts with the British, while von Donanyi managed safe passage for persecuted groups. Their names appear in the Abwehr's financial records, buried among hundreds of routine entries, protected by layers of administrative ambiguity. The SS, frustrated by these evasions, launched repeated investigations, yet each inquiry stalled amid jurisdictional disputes, with Heydrich and Himmler locked in bureaucratic combat. The rivalry was personal as much as institutional. Heydrich's diaries recall tense meetings and even horseback rides with Canaris in Berlin's Tiergarten, moments that masked deeper animosity. As long as these feuds endured, Canaris's position remained secure. The very structure of Nazi court politics, its rival networks, its coded payrolls, its endless paper trails served as an accidental shield, allowing acts of sabotage and subversion to persist at the heart of the regime. Only the collapse of this fragile balance, after the July 20th plot, would finally expose the network that had quietly undermined Hitler from within. September 1939. In the ruins of Warsaw, the Bedzin synagogue burned while hundreds were trapped inside. Canaris, present as the city fell, witnessed the aftermath, bodies in the streets, the acrid smell of smoke, the silence that follows violence. Days later, he boarded Hitler's command train in Silesia and requested an audience with Field Marshal Keitel. Surviving notes and post-war testimonies describe a private protest. Canaris condemned the mass shootings carried out by the Einsatzgruppen, warning that such acts would stain Germany for generations. According to accounts recorded after the war, he is said to have told Keitel that our children's children will bear the blame for this. The origin of the phrase remains contested. No diary entry or official memo preserves it in Canaris' own hand. Yet the moment, whether fully documented or not, signals a rare breach. A senior intelligence chief at the heart of the regime drawing a moral line even as the machinery of destruction gathered speed. The protest would not stop the killings, but it lingers in the record as evidence of conscience, a flash of dissent inside a system built to silence it. On July 23, 1944, Gestapo officers arrested Wilhelm Canaris at his Berlin residence, ending a decade of double agency. The chain began with the failed July 20th plot, but it was the Zossen files, uncovered on September 5th, that sealed his fate. Inside the archive, investigators found coded messages, personnel lists, and correspondence tracing years of clandestine resistance. Clear evidence of the Abwehr's hidden war within the Nazi state. The documents, logged and reviewed by SS interrogators, linked Canaris directly to the conspiracy and exposed the network he had shielded. Transferred to Flossenburg concentration camp on October 22nd, he spent his final months in isolation. On April 9, 1945, as the Third Reich collapsed, Canaris was executed by hanging, his name entered in the Flossenburg death register. The machinery he once directed now turned inward, erasing the last traces of the man who had tried to fight the regime from within. Inside every regime built on terror, rivalries, and ambition can open cracks for sabotage, even at the highest levels. Canaris warned that our children's children will bear the blame for this. Today, the line between complicity and resistance remains as blurred and as vital as ever.